Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an NPC bodybuilder and prep coach. Today's guest is Bryan Troianello. Bryan, welcome back to the podcast, man.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing awesome, dude. For all of you who are tuning into this episode with Bryan, this is his second time on the podcast. We had him on right before Nationals in 2021 back in December. So if you kind of want to hear the normal, typical Behind the Muscle podcast with Bryan, kind of hear his backstory, all of that, you can go back several episodes and listen to that. Today, Bryan and I are just going to catch up, talk life, talk bodybuilding, and kind of keep it light. So cool, Bryan. All right, man. So why don't we kind of pick up at Nationals now? From your Instagram, I know that you had like an illness and stuff. So I kind of want to pick up where we left off. So talk about Nationals, talk about just give us a little bit of your overview of Nationals, how that went for you. Talk about what happened in terms of that sickness, that illness, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think first of all, I should have probably not done the show. Looking back at it, but it's hard to like have that kind of perspective when you're in it, right? So you get really locked in, your focus is all about this, and it's really hard to take a step back and take some time off and really look at it objectively, especially when you're dying for a bodybuilding show, right? So yeah, I didn't do as well as I wanted to and how I thought I was going to do, because a couple of weeks leading into the show, I really liked how I looked, but yeah, it is what it is. I ended up getting pneumonia like a couple of weeks before, and then I just didn't take any time off, and I kept pushing myself, and I wasn't feeling great, but I was like, am I not feeling great because I'm a couple of weeks out, or is it because I'm sick? And I just kept pushing through, and I ran myself into the ground and ended up having to go to the hospital after the show. And I was there for a little bit over a week. And then I had to take antibiotics for several weeks after that. So, and I didn't train for like 5 weeks or something like that. And when I started training again, I was lighter than I was the morning of the show. So
Dang.
yeah, it was a pretty rough period of time. Yeah, I spent New Year's in the hospital. That wasn't cool. Not how I expected to spend New Year's. But yeah, it was really lucky because my wife started a new job. So she's a podiatrist and she got a job at a multi-firm. So there's all different types of doctors. She's the only podiatrist that actually works there. And I remember it was like Thursday night or Wednesday night. I didn't sleep all night because I had to like walk around my house, because if I even sat down, I couldn't breathe. That's how bad. And when she just brought me right to her office. They started doing tests on me right away. And when I was there, they put me on oxygen and they called the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, they just brought me right up to the room, and I didn't have to go to the ER. I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to do any kind of stuff. And that's when I like started to turn really bad and get really sick. So it was really fortunate that I didn't have to wait a couple hours extra. So
now, because you were in prep when you got the pneumonia, and obviously we all know that when you're in prep and you're that close to a competition, the immune system is suppressed, right? Do you feel like, or did the doctors tell you that maybe it was a little bit worse, or you had some worse side effects because of your condition of being in prep, or did that not even come up?
So I told them everything, and really, they didn't really need to, because when they took the X-ray of my lungs, because when they go take the X-rays, they can tell if it's viral or it's bacterial pneumonia because of like where it is on your lungs. So I had viral pneumonia, so it was covering my whole lungs, and just by the MRIs and stuff that they took, when I first got there, like, oh, how long you been sick? And I was like, I don't know, like a week or so. And then when they did all those tests, they're like, you've been sick for like several weeks. So I think probably I would have just recovered from it if I wasn't, if my immune system wasn't shot, not eating, training, doing hour cardio, you know, it's just and then having to do like real life stuff like be a dad, it just is a lot, right? So um yeah, I definitely think that it affected it for sure. But
Okay, so 5 weeks, no training. Weren't obviously in an optimal state for maintaining your body weight and things like that. So after that time off, you kind of start getting back on the road to recovery. Was that a little bit of a mind game that you kind of had to overcome with not being able to train for 5 weeks and probably losing quite a bit of body weight and some muscle mass? I mean, walk us through that, because I want you to do this because, dude, like life happens, right? And sometimes as bodybuilders, we kind of get just so stuck in our hole and like, oh, dude, it's over. I'm losing all. We'll bounce back, right? So just walk us through the mental game that you had to kind of go through and overcome to kind of get back to where you wanted to be.
so the first thing was just I wanted just to train again, right? Because it was 5 or so weeks of not training, but it was 3 weeks of not moving at all, right? So I was in a bed, they didn't let me move around, I was in the hospital, and then I had to get IV antibiotics. So I had a PICC line in my arm for 2 weeks. So I didn't even like do cardio, walk. I remember when, like the first week um, back, I went to like a little vacation with my family to Fredericksburg, which is in Texas. They have like wine and stuff like that, and it's like a cute little town, right? I was winded walking around the grocery store. So just going from not doing anything, you know. Well, first of all, it was weird being in such crazy shape and doing all this cardio and like being able to like pick up all this weight because I am strong too, right? To soup and then not doing as well in this contest as I wanted to getting winded in the supermarket. It was a pretty big jump, right? So just training again was just that was a big deal for me. And I didn't get fat at all. I actually didn't even feel like I put in. I have pictures on my Instagram. If you look back of like when I started training again, and I'm like still pretty lean. So it's not like I got fat. So, you know, that wasn't like I hadn't have to deal with like also getting fat off, right? If that makes sense. Even though I didn't move, I still ate like so much. It's not like I watched my diet during that period of time either. Um, so yeah, it was just I just wanted to train again. That was really just what was important to me. And I was like, I don't need to even, you know, I don't even care what I look like. I just wanted to train just for my head.
For sure. So how
And
did
that
you
week,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
that first week I trained, I gained 9 pounds back.
Nice.
And that wasn't doing anything different at all. That was like I didn't change how I ate or like anything. I just the only difference was that I actually lifted. So it started to come back pretty quickly after that.
Very cool. Okay. So kind of picking up from that point, you get back in the gym, start training, get back into the bodybuilding group, so to speak. Why don't you just kind of talk about how your training's been going? I think you said that you've been training at a new gym, so talk about that. And then I want you to kind of maybe just discuss a little bit what are your plans in terms of competing next. I'll stop there. I don't want to ask too many questions, then people forget. So why don't we
Yeah.
just start there?
And then I'll just like ramble on and
Oh, that's okay. No problem.
yeah, so my two of my really good friends opened a gym in Magnolia, which is like 15 minutes from my house. It's called Texas Iron Republic. So if anybody's in there, they should go check that place out. It's just a really cool place. So the two owners are really good athletes, which is why the gym is cool, right? So I actually trained with one of the owners yesterday. And yesterday we trained legs. He squatted, first of all, he's like 230, right? He squatted 800 pounds on his back, and then he did pause squats with 500 pounds, And then he did like the best set of hack squats I've ever seen. So like when people like that own a gym, they end up having like all the really cool stuff, like all the nuances that you don't necessarily buy unless you're really strong, like calibrated plates and all that kind of bars and stuff like that. So um, it's just a cool place. If you like that kind of hardcore, it doesn't have AC. So everybody that's in there isn't really trying to like do anything but train, right? So and then lately, just because I'm like in that environment, I've been trying to just get really strong. I have a goal of pulling 800 pounds. I think I'm pretty close to do that. And not that I'm trying to do a powerlifting meet. It's just a fun thing to do, right? Also playing all the strongman stuff, like it's pretty cool. And in terms of competing, I'm really looking to do something next year. So that's what my goal is at the moment. I'm really busy in a good way right now. My wife and I just bought our third house. We're renting out houses. So there's a lake that's near us, and we have a house on the lake, and it sold out for the year. So we bought another one.
Cool.
So really been busy with that and kids and all the stuff, and all great stuff. So at the moment, I'm just I also want to be much better when I compete. So just focusing on growing and that kind of stuff. But I definitely, especially after the last few weekends and after watching North Americans this weekend, I'm definitely itching. So.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit more bodybuilding. We're going to talk some coaching. And then I actually want to go back to, buying some houses, doing some real estate stuff, because that's cool. Okay. So now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think from your Instagram, I've seen your coach is Phil Viz. Is that correct?
Phil helped me for nationals the last time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you prepping yourself then now, or looking after your own stuff, or do you have a different person overseeing that?
Since I've been sick, I've been doing everything myself.
Okay. Cool.
He's still a good friend. We still talk, but off season's pretty easy, right? Get a little fat, do a little cardio.
Yeah. Just talk a little bit about your off season structure, Bryan. Talk about kind of what's your split. I know you just said you're trying to get strong, but just for some of the people watching or listening that just geek out on that stuff, just expound a little bit on your kind of current split, and just talk a little bit of the nuances in terms of that, if you don't mind.
Sure. So at the moment, the way that I structured my split is I can hit everything once a week, and it flows pretty well that I can, if I want to bring something up, then I can hit something twice a week. So, and I also have, like I said, I want to deadlift. So I have a day that I designate just for deadlifting. So basically the way that I set it up is I have a push day where most of the time I focus more on chest, but I sometimes do chest and arms, or chest, shoulders and arms, or, it really depends on where I want, right? The next day is my deadlift day, where I basically train hamstrings and back, right? So I pull and I do a bunch of hamstring stuff, and sometimes, pull downs if I feel like I need extra. Then I take a day off. Then I have another push day that I focus shoulders and triceps. And then I have like a bodybuilding back day after that, where I'm doing all like the, pull downs and fluff stuff. And then I have Saturday, I train legs.
Okay. Cool.
So 2 push days, a pull day, a bodybuilding back day, and a leg day.
Okay. Now, you do kind of like your training style is kind of the top set stuff, right? You got one set where it's like balls to the wall, and then what do you kind of do from there, or have you adjusted it a little bit?
I still definitely train that way, where I train up to a top set, and I try to do the least amount possible to get to that top set. So I'm really just trying to acclimate to the weight. I get to the top set of whatever it is. It could be, a set of 10, set of 6, 5, whatever. And then all the volume I do on the back end, right? So I might still do 3, 4 sets of an exercise, but it's all after that top set. And that is that's where I manipulate the volume, is on the back end off of the top set instead of leading up how most people train, right? And there's a lot of benefits to that. The main one being is if you're doing 4 sets of 10 to get up to whatever weight, most of the time, even if you're trying to push yourself on those sets, you still go half-assed because you want the top set, right? This way you get to go all on the top set and you get to go all out on the back off sets, and you get way more work into that period of time. So, and also those back off sets can be a rest pause set, a drop set. That all depends on where my recovery is. And I keep track of that. I also don't like write stuff down like I used to either, because that just kind of drove me crazy, and training's a lot more fun if you don't do that. I also I used to train in a way where I feel like that way was overly bracing myself, right? So I definitely try to brace myself in most movements, but I also am really conscious of how my body moves and trying to move in that path and try to get that muscle, whatever I'm working, as shortened and as length as possible, right? So, and I think the combination of those things really has helped me grow a lot lately. Gotten a lot stronger, feel a lot healthier. So
now, in terms of kind of what you're trying to focus on for body parts to bring up, I know like most bodybuilders, it's overall size, but just getting into the specifics, what areas are you really concentrating on during this off season before you step on stage again to bring up, Bryan?
My triceps being the number one thing, and then a little bit of quad. I think those are the 2 things that need the most, in my opinion.
Within the quads, is that specifically quad sweep or just bigger legs, hamstrings? Well, not hamstrings if it's quads, but is it quad sweep? What specifically about quads?
Probably more the sweep. I don't know if you can really focus just on your sweep. A lot of people say that, but I think you just need bigger quads. So I think it was really picking exercises that really are really focus on that, right? So the most amount of knee, picking exercises that have the most amount of knee flexion, and also for myself lowering the weight a bit, right? So yesterday I did pause squats, so I actually stopped momentum completely, and same thing with hacks. And I'm trying to get as much knee flexion as possible. It's still heavy relative, right? But not as, I could definitely do a lot more. And I think those types of things, focusing on really obsessing about knee flexion and stopping momentum.
Okay. Now, I just had earlier today, I had Cole Eastfold on the podcast, and he said that his coach Matt Jansen had told him that he wanted him to kind of start from North Americans to going into nationals later this year. Matt said, I want you to start pausing for a second with hack squats and things like that. And that was for quad sweep for Cole. So what does that pause, or doing some sort of pause movement in terms of legs and squatting specifically, what is that supposed to kind of do for a quad sweep? Because I don't even personally really know about that.
So like I said, I don't know so much you can target on just your quad sweep when you're going, right? I think it's more about using just the muscle intended. So for myself, my lower back and my glutes are very developed, right? Especially my lower back. And if I do certain exercises, I can easily cheat with my back, right? So just, if I'm doing controlled and pausing, I can definitely get way more knee flexion and definitely stretch my quad much better, because I'm more controlled, right? And I'm using less weight. And then also I can focus and just push through my foot and just use the muscle in the quads instead of, bouncing with my glute, kind of bending my back a little bit on the movement. So I just being more braced, right?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, and I'm with you. I people say the quad sweep thing all the time, and I think that's it's a genetic thing. But I guess you can try, right?
Yeah, I think people kind of jimmy them up a little bit, and that's the only way. But I think if you're trying to grow your quads, I think you should be in the correct alignment, right? Pick exercises that fit your structure, be in the correct alignment, meaning like your foot, your ankle, your knee, your hip, all in line, and then focus on getting as much knee flexion as possible. And you could do that by which exercises you pick, by elevating your heels, so all those kinds of stuff, right? But I think that should be your focus and not so much like doing stupid sideways leg press and stuff like that. Also, you can't put a load on that, so that's a whole other issue.
We won't tell Charles Glass about that one, Bryan. Okay.
All right.
All right, man. Okay, so now you're a coach and everything like that. So I want to kind of get into that a little bit. How's that been going with you? I saw somebody that you've been posting on your Instagram that I've had on the podcast, John Izzy. You're working with him, right?
Yeah, I'm doing his training. So
Okay.
Dom's doing his diet, and I've just been doing his training for him.
Okay, cool.
So,
So how's the coaching thing going? Just talk a little bit about that in terms of the business and kind of where do you want to take the coaching thing? Is that kind of something that you just want to continue to grow, have coaches underneath you if you don't already have that? Talk about that for a minute.
yeah, I all the above. It's something that I really enjoy doing, and I want to grow it as much as possible. At the moment, lately, I've been working with people that I haven't been pushing it as much as I should. But I've been working with people that I really like too. And like I said, I've been doing a bunch of other stuff like the houses and stuff. So it hasn't been, I haven't spent as much time trying to get new clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, John's doing really well. All the stuff I'm making him do is basically trying to fold him in half so he grows his whole backside. Because from the front and the side, there's no reason why he shouldn't win nationals, in my opinion. Right. So no offense to anybody else, but
Facts are facts, right?
yeah,
So he is going to be doing nationals then this year. That's what he's gunning for.
that's what he's planning on doing.
Okay, cool. I'll have to get him back on the podcast. He's a good dude. So now in terms of coaching, Bryan, do you mostly just focus on people's training or do you kind of take on some people and do the training, the nutrition, and the whole nine yards in terms of like prep?
So I like doing everything, so I have control of everything. But I have people that I just do nutrition for, and I have people that I just do training for, and I have people that I do everything for. So um, my preference is to do everything, but I know not everybody can do that, right? Plus, there's also people that could be local that are good trainers. That you know, does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Um, okay, so if somebody, I'm gonna ask you this because I know you've had a lot of bodybuilding experiences, both coaching and competing and training with pros, all that stuff. So if somebody is kind of listening to this or watching this, and they kind of want to get into, maybe they've already competed a little bit, but they want to kind of transition into the coaching, all that type of stuff. Like what would you suggest if they want to do it the right way? We know everybody that goes out there and it's basically an advertising scheme on Instagram, social media. But if somebody really wants to get into coaching, do it the right way, what are some of your give us your top three things that they could do to kind of move in that direction? Again, doing it properly and correctly.
I think the biggest thing is to get your information out there, right? Is to talk to people like you, talk to other coaches, try to be in conversations. Like the great thing about social media is you can talk to everybody, right? And you can be in conversations with people about things and discuss things, right? So if you're making comments on people's stuff and you're right, you have good points, you're talking about training, just bullshitting with people notice that kind of stuff, right? I think that's probably the biggest thing. Instead of just, obviously having clients that are good and be able to display that you've done your job, but it's also easy to pick, just get lucky too, right? if you have like a lot of people, that's one thing too, right? Especially like showing all different types of people. And that's another thing too, right? So people that you've worked with, you know, try to show everybody so you can see exactly how good you are. But I would definitely say just try to be in the conversation and talk about it. Try to give out some free information too. I know that's hard to do, but you can definitely like post stuff on your stories, talk about it. I see that all the time, right? And it's really easy to, you know, have people notice that kind of stuff. And then the next would be, you know, do a good job and have good clients, right?
Do you feel like somebody who competes, is that a plus for someone who's trying to grow a coaching business in terms of like them getting results for themselves and actually stepping on stage? Or is that maybe not necessarily, you know, a necessity to get into the bodybuilding coaching space?
I think it depends. It's there's plenty of good coaches that haven't, like, look at Honey's probably the best coach in the world, and he's not Mr. Olympia, right?
Yep.
So
Great point. I don't even know. I know he competed a little bit back in the day, but I don't think he really did a whole lot, did he?
I don't think he did a whole lot, but every single person he's worked with has looked awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yep, for sure. That's a great point.
right.
Any okay, so USA's was a few weeks ago, back in I think the end of July. We just had North Americans. You said watching those competitions kind of was getting you itching a little bit to get back on stage. Do you have any overall thoughts from USA's, North Americans, any of the guys that you saw that won the overall, got their pro cards, anything in terms of just thoughts, perspectives?
Um, I thought everybody looked good. I mean, Stu looked awesome. I like his physique a lot. I think actually that whole super class um, looked great. In terms of, and then I've competed against Austin, so I know Austin has really good physique. So that was cool to see because he's always been a good dude. So it was cool to see him get a pro card. And then I've competed with Dom a bunch of times, and he's always been a good guy. So it was cool to watch him get a pro card. So
Any competitions this year in terms of within the IFBB? Any athletes kind of catch your eye, or you're like, man, that person really improved? Anybody that you can think of off the top of your head?
most improved, probably Martin.
Hmm.
I think Martin looked awesome at Texas.
Yeah.
And actually, I've known Martin since he was like 19.
Oh, really?
So Martin did Junior USA's when Hunter did it. So I met him there, and then Martin did Junior Nationals like a couple weeks later when I did Junior Nationals. So, which is also when Brett got his pro card. So that's kind of cool too. But so I've known him since he was like a kid. Now he's only 25, and like super impressive. I saw him a couple weeks before when I went to Dallas for a gasp event, and he showed me some pictures. It looked nuts. So
have you guys trained together down there in Texas since he moved down there or not?
not since he's moved in Texas, but him and I have trained together before.
Cool.
So
What about what are your thoughts on this Andrew Jack guy?
I think Andrew Jack looks awesome. It's hard not to like his physique, right? I mean, I'd like to see him really dialed in, but I think he's got all the potential. I mean, he's got all the shape he needs. He's got, you know, ton of muscle. Guy's got great physique. So, yeah, he's got awesome physique. Actually, everyone at that Texas show looked awesome, right? That guy, Quentin, man, that dude's looks awesome. Steve always looks good. But yeah, everybody's talking about Andrew Jack. It's hard not to.
Yeah. Quentin Beastwood on Instagram, Quentin Uriah. I personally think, I mean, like structurally, I mean, he could easily be Mr. Olympia at some point. I mean, don't you think, if he puts on the size?
Yeah, definitely could. He's got to put on a lot of size though. So let's see if that happens. But you know, everybody says there's plenty of people that you say that kind of stuff about, right? And then they don't end up doing it. But it definitely looks like he's going to end up doing it, though.
Right.
Um,
I've asked a lot of the guys. I've had a lot of the guys. I mean, a handful of guys. Up in the Toronto area that train out of Pure Muscle, where Quentin's at, and I'd asked them. I'm like, okay, because there's kind of one of those destination gyms, and a lot of pros coming in and out and stopping by, and so I've asked a lot of the guys, like, who's the freakiest guy that you've seen, like, out of Pure Muscle, whether they're just visiting or just training there on the regular basis, and they've all said Quentin, you know what I mean? So that's got to say something when you've got other pros saying, like, hey, this guy's like a freak, But what's something kind of that you've seen lately within bodybuilding that you don't like, or you just kind of get annoyed by, or you wish would maybe change? However you want to take that. If it's social media related, training related, coaching related, I don't really care. But what do you think? What would you like to see change, or what's something that's just getting annoying within bodybuilding?
that's a really good question. I would like for them to spread out the national shows more. I think it takes way too long. Everybody's so tired by the time everybody's done. Like, nobody can, like, it's got to be rough for the judges to be judging all those people. So I don't know what the right way to do that is. Is it to give more, to make the junior shows bigger, to give away? I mean, if they just gave one pro card to the overall winner, right? Or if they made the national shows, they have more, like how North Americans is a couple days, right? Like bodybuilding is just one day, figures just one day, right? To spread it out more. But I think it takes it, and especially if you're backstage and you're a super, like, you're back there all day.
Right.
So, that's kind of an easy fix, I think. Another thing. Yeah, I think it all has to do with just people having more time on stage, right? Yeah. So
cool. I like that.
I just want it to be more time, even on pro shows and stuff. When we went to the Chicago Pro, they like worked all the people. They went through like 10, 12 rounds of posing. And I know everybody up there was dying, but they got the judging, like, it was really, really good because they posed everybody. Everybody was up there for a long time. And of all the bodybuilding shows that I've ever been to, that one, to me, that I saw in person, seemed to be done the best because they like really worked those guys. So they just like did something so that people can be on stage a little bit longer. And I know when there's some big shows, it can take all day, right? But you shouldn't even make, I mean, it's got to be rough for everybody.
Yeah. I know Cole said at North Americans, he went on stage at like 10 a.m. maybe for prejudging, and then it wasn't until, I don't know, 9-10 o'clock at night when the finals went. I think it was kind of the same way with USA, same thing with Nationals last year, wasn't it? You guys had to wait a long time at Nationals.
Yeah, and at North Americans last year, it took all day. All the national shows have done, they're taking all day. Coleman, by the way, he looked awesome at both shows. Like, he like, when most people do like shows back to back, like they might be like, I don't know, a little off one of those shows, and he definitely wasn't. So it's awesome.
Yeah, he's just a great dude. He's got kids and stuff, as well, and standing up there competing against, like, guys that are like 23, 24, and he's awesome. And obviously Matt Jansen, you can't go wrong with him in terms of prepping and stuff. So love having him on the podcast. All right, let's talk a little bit. Let's turn it over to you said you bought some houses, doing a little bit of real estate stuff. Talk about that for a little bit. What kind of led you guys in that direction?
Yeah, so it's just something that my wife always wanted to do, was have she just like obsesses about those house flip shows, right? Like all those like model rehab houses. And actually the house that we're in right now, that's in Tomball, we bought and we gutted it and redid it, right? And then just something that we always talked about, wanted to have like a rental property that was like a vacation home. So we just spent a long time finding it. We found a house on Lake Livingston, which is here in Texas. It's like an hour and 20 minutes away from the other house. And within like, I put it up on Airbnb, and every month, every day that I didn't block off, it rented out.
Wow.
And then I actually have a family staying from October 1st to May 31st, and they're paying my full Airbnb price that whole time.
Nice.
Which I thought was fake at first, but they already paid, so it's not fake because the house is all furnished, right? So I was like, I remember calling my dad and be like, what do I do? Like, I bought this house because I want like a free house to go to the lake, right? Basically. He's like, well, use it to buy another one. So that's what we did. So just bought another one like 2 weeks ago. I have to do a little bit of work for that, but my best friend growing up, that's what he does for a living. So he's coming down. He's going to help a bit with that, redo the kitchen and some bathrooms and stuff. But that one's right on the same lake, but it's on the other side of the lake. So both are on the water, which is why they rent out.
Now, most of us know that there's quite a few people moving to, Texas, Florida, some different states for reasons we won't get into right now. But have you what's that?
That's a whole nother podcast.
It's a whole nother podcast. I don't want any hateful comments on my YouTube channel. We'll just focus mostly on bodybuilding here. But anyways, the reality is there's a lot of people moving to Texas, Florida, some other states. Have you kind of noticed an influx of people? And then what's the current real estate market down there in Texas? Because I know Florida, Texas, at least over the last couple of years, it's been pretty hot. Is it still hot? What's it kind of going on with those things?
So definitely since I moved down here, it's grown up substantially. So moved here like 6-7 years ago, and there's a whole highway next to me that gets you right downtown that didn't exist when I bought this house. So, and you see developments going up. The other town that I have, the lake house town, that is like a little tiny town, and that's starting to grow. That's where you notice it, right? Those little towns like Houston, how much do you notice that it grows, right? But this little town, you can definitely see it's blowing up. And, the house that I live in now is more than doubled since I bought it. And the house that I bought earlier in the year is already more than what I bought, is worth more than I bought it for. So pretty good. I think you just gotta, I guess, have an eye for picking the right spot, but doing pretty well.
Yeah. And you got to have a little, you got to have some decent credit and a little money to invest to get that type of property, right, Bryan?
Yeah, you got to get to a certain point, right?
Right, for sure.
But then they make it so it's easier though.
Yeah.
So like I made the renter into its own company. It's easier to get loans if you're a business, stuff like that you can do, right?
Yeah. Are you guys planning on continuing to kind of find the right places and invest in kind of the real estate stuff, or is it just kind of see what happens?
I see it becoming something big. It's just the way that we are. So, and it's fun still. I think it's like anything. It's like, I'm going to keep doing until it's fun, until it's not fun, right? It's still fun. It's cool doing this kind of stuff. It's a lot of work to get to it there and to find the right thing. But then, once it's in place, it's not a ton of work, right? So it's something that I'm not going to lose money on as long as I pay my bills. And, can be a good amount of passive income. So nobody has to work when they're old.
Right. I think I saw on Chris Tuttle, who he just recently moved down to Texas, I think within the last year. I think him and his wife are starting to get into some real estate stuff that I saw him post on his Instagram. So I guess it's definitely a smart move in terms of, like you said, some passive income and building for the future. So we're going to start kind of wrapping things up, Bryan, but I do want to ask you another question. And you know, again, this is kind of more directed for maybe younger people or people that are just getting into bodybuilding or thinking about different things. But you know, we've got you know, the training, you've got food, and you've got if you choose to do you know, go the enhancement route, you've got PEDs, right? In terms of growth and progress. Will you just put those three in order of importance in terms of progressing as a bodybuilder?
You mean diet, training, and gear?
Yeah, those three. And if you want to throw in anything else, go for it.
Sure. I would say number one thing, and everybody's going to say this, right? They're going to say it's training, then diet, then gear. And I definitely feel that way, right? Because if you take the gear and your training and diets off, it's not going to do anything. And that's why there's a lot of, I mean, shit, most of the countries on testosterone replacement, right? And most people aren't that big. So it's not like it does. You have to work to do it, right? And you also have to have the response to do it too, right? So there's a large genetic component to be able to respond properly to it, right? Sleep and rest, I'll put in there too.
Yeah.
So, you know, for myself, I think what I focus on the most for myself at the moment is definitely my sleep and definitely things like my mobility and stuff like that at this point. You know, I definitely factor those in quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. During like your off season phase, like you're in right now, do you get any like body work, tissue work done, chiropractic work, anything like that? Or are you just kind of focused on sleep and doing your own mobility type stuff?
I haven't gotten body work done in a long time. I don't really have a person that I have that I can do it with. I used to get it done all the time. I just don't have a guy right now to do that. Okay. So, and in terms of, you said like kids getting into bodybuilding and stuff, you know, going back onto the gear question, I really feel that it's a pretty simple thing. So if somebody's telling you something that's complicated, that's not correct. It's pretty simple. So, and if anybody's like a kid and something and wants to like have a conversation about it, you know, I'd rather them DM me and I can be honest with them and not have them hurt themselves. You know, also another really cool thing that's, you know, you can go to a doctor and get this all done and get blood work done every few months and really be smart about it too. So there's definitely a right and a wrong way to do this. So, you know,
I appreciate you putting that out there, because that was something I was going to kind of ask you, Bryan, is we don't really get into a whole lot of gear talk on the podcast just because there's other podcasts that talk about that. And I don't know anything about it personally, but I obviously know it's a big part of, you know, bodybuilding and things like that. But I'm glad you said that, because that was something I was going to say. And if you want to expound a little bit more, you can on this, but like, you know, you said that people can reach out to you and ask you questions, but you know, if somebody, you know, they're at that point where they want to go the enhancement route, but you know, just like everything else, there's so much information out there. Like, are there some legit good resources out there, like maybe some coaches or whatever it is that's putting some good content out there in terms of gear? Or is it kind of like you got to find somebody that's kind of been there, done that, and pick their brain?
I mean, there's plenty of really good coaches out there that you can ask, but you're gonna, right? Hold on a second.
Oh, you're good. You're good, man.
Sorry. Okay. There's plenty of really good coaches out there that you can ask, right? And get the right thing on gear. Another thing is to go to a doctor. There's plenty of good doctors or clinics, and you can go and get your blood work and you can get exactly what you need, right? You don't have to, you know, do anything that would mess your body up. In terms of like YouTube and that kind of stuff, information that's free, I don't really know of any. So unfortunately, maybe somebody should do that though.
Well, they could probably make quite a bit of money off of YouTube and stuff, right?
But yeah. But yeah, I mean, I just see a lot of dumb things people do, right? And you know, you see kids in the gym, or you overhear people do things, or you just see things online that people are doing, and it really, I'd rather to give away some free information so people don't hurt themselves, right? Because I want bodybuilding to do well.
Yeah.
And you don't have to listen to me, but if I'm there, if you want to ask me a question.
Yeah. Well, I think that's awesome, man. What do you well, one more question about PED stuff and then we'll wrap it up here. But in terms of red flags, I know you kind of said something, if somebody says, gives you some sort of like complicated protocol or whatever like that, that sounds like that's a red flag in your estimation. What are maybe some other red flags if somebody is given some information about PEDs that people should just like walk away from that coach or that information, just say, I'm going to go somewhere else?
Maybe them telling you to use certain ones. Or like too much. I don't know.
Okay. You don't. Okay. That's
Vague
fine.
question. Sorry. It's kind of a vague question. I don't know.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Not a problem. Okay. Let's wrap it up, man. I want to ask you, I guess, this kind of final question. In terms of you getting back on stage, competing, what's your kind of long-term competitive bodybuilding goal that you have for yourself, Bryan?
At the moment, the way I'm looking at it is, it's something I still love doing, and my progress is not slowing down. So, you know, in my head, I have a certain amount of progress I can make now, and then it gets to the point where it starts to slow down, and then it stays still, but you still can be good, right? And it hasn't even slowed down yet. So I still haven't, in my opinion, got anywhere near where I can be. So I'm having fun training and seeing where that goes at the moment. And when it stops being fun or I stop progressing, then maybe I'll think about it.
So, I mean, first of all, I'm assuming you want to get your IFBB Pro card, or do you not think about that?
No, that's pretty important to me.
It is?
Yeah, that's very important to me.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And then when you get that pro card, then what do you want to accomplish in the pro ranks?
I just want to be happy. After that, to be honest with you, I just want to be happy about what I look like, right? Like I want to look back and be like, okay, I'm happy with this. I looked the way, you know, my peak went well, all that kind of stuff, you know. Yeah, I didn't do too much cardio or undereat or didn't come in fat, right? Like just happy with the package from there on out. Because I mean, there's a lot of variables that dictate your placing, right? But you know, I just want to be good enough that nobody questions that I know what I'm talking about.
Hey, fair enough, man. I think that's a great place to end the conversation, Bryan. That's perfect, man. First of all, Bryan, before I do a quick outro, I want to just say thanks for coming on Sunday. I know you got a lot of things going on, but thank you again for coming on, man. Just talking a little shop, catching us up in terms of where you're at with everything. Before I do a quick outro here, any shout outs, any sponsors, anything that you want to leave with us, go for it. And then I'll do a quick outro and that'll be a wrap.
Yeah, sure. I mean, two companies that sponsor me are Gasp, which is the biggest one, and HD Muscle. And the gym that I train at is actually, there's two gyms that I train at right now, right? So I train at Texas Iron Republic, which is in Magnolia, 1488. And then my lake house, I train at Livingston Training Center. So that's actually a very cool gym. It just kind of worked out that this place had a really cool gym, and the owner of that gym and I became very good friends too. So that's a cool place with all like old Body Master stuff. It's a cool spot. That's in Livingston, Texas. Okay.
So with Gasp and HD supplements, is there a code or anything that you want to give out if people want to support you?
Yep, Bryan, just Bryan, Bryan. Okay. Easy to remember.
That's pretty Pretty easy, man. Okay, one more question before I let you go. In terms of HD and their supplements, it seems like from the outside, my perspective, they have a great thing going on. Great owners and athletes on the team. But what are some of your go-to supplements in terms of HD, or maybe recommendations for people that are looking for some high quality supplements?
For sure. I mean, the multi I use every day, twice a day that they have. And, things I use every single day is definitely the multi, the protein, of course. And I use an intra. So I use the EAAs or the intra HD, depending on if I want what taste I want, and then the carb HD every day when I train. So I have a little intra drink that it's got the carb and the intra in it. So
there we go.
But that's why I like that company, is because they have all the health supplements and they have the other stuff.
Yeah.
So
and again, like the guys at the helm, I mean, they seem super legit, and I mean, it just seems like a really cool culture. Have you ever been up there to peer and trained or anything, or not yet?
Not yet. I want to.
Okay. Yeah.
So I need to go call Dorian and get up there.
bring that Texas vibe up to Toronto, huh?
Yeah, I want to train with Mike Van Wyck too. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So
Big
maybe
Mike.
I need to do it soon because it's gonna be too cold up there soon, right?
Yeah. That nasty weather, man. I'm up here in Iowa. It's this morning here in my hometown where I'm at, it was 50 degrees this morning. So it's like, man, it's starting to get a little chilly, but it's all good. All right, Bryan, appreciate your time. I'm going to do a quick outro and that'll be a wrap. Okay.
Sounds good.
Cool. All of you are tuning into another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast. I just want to say thank you so very much. I appreciate all of you. I value all of you. As always, if it weren't for all of you, the podcast wouldn't exist. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And also, please take this episode, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Bryan, tag Behind the Muscle, so that we know you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it. If you are not following Bryan on Instagram, why don't you guys go ahead, give him a follow. I know he's always putting up some awesome training content. And just like he said earlier, if you have some questions, you can reach out to him. And he's obviously somebody that knows what he's talking about and practices what he preaches. So make sure you give Bryan a follow on Instagram. And then per the usual, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.